Donald Trump is a profoundly sick and disturbed man. Now, he just made some of his most disgusting and vile comments about Liz Cheney. Take a look at this.
And I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter's a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know,
it is absolutely unbelievable to me that this man is even being considered for President of the United States. The fact that this race is even close is just utterly beyond belief. But it is. I don't need to get into his disgusting comments. They speak for themselves. I'm sure there'll be argument about exactly what it is that he meant. I don't really care. These comments are so horrible, they should be completely disqualifying. And if Donald Trump were anyone else, they would be disqualifying. This would end his campaign. And it's not just this. I mean, he says something almost every single day and has for years that should be utterly disqualifying, even before he was elected the first time. The fact that the rules, the political rules that apply to everybody else don't seem to apply to Donald Trump. We're going to need to come to grips with why the hell that is. And I'll tell you, and here's my bigger question as I see Donald Trump's latest comments. My question is for the media. What are they going to do now? Are they going to treat these comments like they treat everything else that Donald Trump says and does? Probably. Are they just going to sane wash this? Are they just going to downplay it and just take the position of, oh, that's just Trump being Trump? Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to play both sides? Oh, well, both sides engage in heated rhetoric. Is that what they're going to do? Just dismiss this as heated rhetoric? Probably. You know, the media and their corruption and their cowardice is one of the main reasons why we are where we are. Why this man has a chance of being elected president. Now, I don't think he's going to be elected president. I stand by the things that I've said up to this point. But the fact that this is even close absolutely disgusts me. So what is the media going to do? You know, if this were anyone else, obviously this would be the story 24 hours a day right up until the election, and this would sink him. My guess is that's probably not going to happen. I hope that's what happens. But it probably won't. They'll probably just sweep this under the rug, just like they do everything else that the man says and does. And think about this. Imagine if you said this about the Vice President of the United States. What do you think would happen to you? What if you posted these comments on social media? You'd probably get a visit from the Secret Service and the FBI. To discover whether or not you are actually threatening the Vice President of the United States and how serious a threat this is. That's what would happen to you or to me if you or I said something even remotely close to what Donald Trump just said. But you know what? Here's what his comments say to me and many of his other actions. This man is panicked. This man is losing it. Okay? We already know that this man is sick. He is mentally unwell and probably has been suffering from some form of mental illness for his entire life. We know that he is a malignant narcissist. Others have speculated about what his mental condition may be. I'm not an expert on that, but there's clearly something seriously wrong with him. This is a very seriously sick person mentally. But he is also unraveling cognitively. He is clearly experiencing dementia. And I believe it's a dementia that is increasing rapidly. He's deteriorating before our eyes. And this was a sick person to begin with. He is getting worse and worse. And I think a lot of this, in addition to his mental illness, to his increasing dementia, I think this is evidence of his abject panic. You know, his cult may think that he's going to win this election in a landslide, and I want to get to that in a minute, by the way. I'm going to discuss that. And Fox News and these other right-wing propaganda outlets may be lying to their audiences that Donald Trump is winning this in a landslide. But his campaign knows the truth. At best, the best that can be said for Donald Trump is that this is a neck-and-neck close election. And remember, Donald Trump, this isn't just about an election for him. This is about staying out of prison. So Donald Trump is a very desperate man, and we now have less than a week until the election, and he's not winning this thing. At best, this is a tied race, and he is panicked. He is scared to death that he is going to lose this, and he is lashing out in all kinds of ways. And this is one. He is angry. He is angry at Liz Cheney. I'll just leave it at that. He is furious at Liz Cheney and people like Liz Cheney. And here's another example. There's many examples of his panic that I haven't heard people frame it in this way. And that's his recent stunts where he pretended to work at McDonald's, right? He went there and dressed up in the McDonald's uniform, pretended he was actually working a shift, you know, doing the fry station. Of course, that was all just, you know, a photo op. The restaurant was closed. He wasn't actually working. He wasn't actually serving customers. And then his most recent stunt, where he put on this ridiculous vest, painted himself even more bright orange than usual, and you know, rode around in circles in a parking lot in a garbage truck adorned with Trump signs and flags. Now, here's why I think that's evidence of his panic. Because he dressed himself up in costumes and made himself look even more ridiculous than he already does. Now, one thing we know about Donald Trump is he is obsessively focused on his appearance. That's why he wears a girdle. That's why he wears suits that are 2 sizes too big, so he doesn't appear as fat as he is. That's why he paints himself in clown makeup every day. That's why he takes his few remaining hairs, grows them out to 4 feet long, spins them around his head like cotton candy, and holds it all in place with gallons of Aquanet. Because the man is self-conscious about his appearance. And because he is, there's no way that he would normally want to dress up in a McDonald's uniform and pretend to work the fry line. All right? There's no way he'd put on that ridiculous vest and get into a garbage truck and drive around in circles in a parking lot. There's no way he would do that unless it was out of panic. He's panicked. He can see the same information that I've been reporting about. His campaign has all this stuff. His campaign has more information than is made publicly available to the rest of us. He can see that women are voting in droves in the battleground states, in Pennsylvania. According to elections officials, 56% of the early votes cast in Pennsylvania have been cast by women. Across the battleground states, 55% of the early votes have been cast by women. Putting aside the party registration of people who have cast early ballots, to me that's the most telling fact, the number of women. Because Kamala Harris is winning so overwhelmingly with women. The fact that 55%, 56% in Pennsylvania are women, I hope that trend continues. If it does, Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States. Donald Trump can see this information, and he's panicked. He may be telling his cult that he's winning in a landslide, but he's scared to death. That's why he dresses up like a fool and pulls these stunts, these ridiculous stunts, and that's why he goes on these unhinged rants about Liz Cheney and all the other things that he's been saying. And I reported on this this tweet, well, it's not a tweet, this truth, whatever you call these posts on Truth Social, that Donald Trump posted the other day. He wrote, "Pennsylvania is cheating and getting caught at large-scale levels rarely seen before. Report cheating to authorities. Law enforcement must act now." So you see them ramping up their allegations of widespread cheating. You know what this is about. When he loses, he's going to do the same thing he did before. This was stolen. This was fraud. We have to overturn the election. I was robbed. What this tells me, though, this is not someone who sounds like he thinks he's winning. This sounds to me like someone who just before he wrote this ridiculous post, he got some information from his campaign staff telling him that he's losing Pennsylvania. That's what this tells me. This man has the worst poker face on planet Earth. You know, whatever he says and does is a window into what he's thinking. So he posts something like this, it means he's scared about Pennsylvania. Now let's talk for a minute about this idea that Donald Trump is going to win in a landslide, because a lot of people on the right actually believe this. And before I get into that, let me just say, just so you know, those of you who do Facebook, I just started a new Facebook page for the Romano Report. So I'd appreciate it greatly if you'd go over there and follow my page, the Romano Report. Just look it up. Or you know what, I'll put a link also in this description below. Now, people who watch Fox News day in and day out, or just marinate in the right-wing propaganda of the podcasts and Newsmax and all these other places, people who just get their information from those sources, and that's really what Trump cultists do. They don't allow themselves, for the most part, to see anything that contradicts what they want to believe is true. So that's why, you know, they create these information bubbles in which to live. And so, and by the way, Fox News and these other outlets, they know that that's what their audience wants to hear, and their audience reacts very angrily if you tell them anything different. And if you do, they'll go to one of the other platforms. They'll abandon you. That's what the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News proved to us. Fox News made a business decision to tell their audience only what they want to believe is true. So, for example, if they actually report on how close the race is, excuse me, their audience will get mad and go to Newsmax, who will tell them that Trump is winning in a landslide. So Fox News, not wanting to lose audience, tells their audience that Trump is winning in a landslide. So these Trump supporters think he is absolutely running away with this election. They really truly believe this. I see these people all the time. They comment on all my stuff. They really truly believe that Trump is like up by 20, 30 points. Let me read a little bit of an article that just came out yesterday. Because this also plays into why they believe Trump is going to win in a landslide. Not just because Trump is telling them that. Not just because Fox News is telling them that. But because of these polls. And we've discussed it here on the channel about all of these red wave phony polls being paid for by Trump and his affiliated organizations to skew the polling averages, and also to give Donald Trump an argument after he loses that the election was stolen. Let me read a little bit of this article. It came out yesterday. The torrent of polls began arriving just a few weeks ago, one after the other, most showing a victory for Donald J. Trump. They stood out amid the hundreds of others indicating a dead heat in the presidential election, but they had something in common. They were commissioned by right-leaning groups with a vested interest in promoting Republican strength. Exactly what we've been talking about here. The partisan polls appear focused on lifting Republican enthusiasm before the election, and perhaps more important, cementing the idea that the only way Mr. Trump can lose to Vice President Kamala Harris is if the election is rigged. Polls promising a Republican victory, the theory runs, could be held up as evidence of cheating if the victory does not come to pass. Republicans are clearly, strategically putting polling into the information environment to try to create perceptions that Trump is stronger, said Joshua Disick, who directs the Center for Public Opinion at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. Their incentive is not necessarily to get the answer right. You don't say. Last week, the right-wing influencer Ian Miles Chong shared a survey with his 1.1 million followers on X, Twitter. The forecast from a new polling company suggested, without sharing its methodology, that the former president, get this, would take 74.3% of the national vote, a landslide unprecedented in American history. Trump is absolutely going to win, Mr. Chung wrote. The data shows it. This is the kind of crap that Trump supporters see in their information bubble. This is the kind of garbage they get inundated with on social media. Because this is the kind of stuff that gets the clicks and the likes and the, all of that. This is what gets people to watch their podcasts and all of that. Money. Attention. If you say the race is a dead heat, Trump cultists don't want to hear that. If you say Trump is going to win with 74% of the vote, that's what the Trump cult wants to hear. They're going to click on your article. They're going to follow you on social media. So this is what they get day in and day out. And they actually believe this. Of course, the facts are the exact opposite. As we both know, this race, sadly, is very, very close. Now, I've been saying, and I still believe, that it won't end up being as close as the polls and the pundits are telling us, but that doesn't mean it won't be close. It's still going to be close. I just don't think it's going to be decided by a couple dozen points, or a couple dozen votes in a couple of swing states. I don't think it's going to be quite that close, but it is still a close election. Here's another thing they're saying. Just the lies that go around, and I've heard this a bunch. I don't know where these lies, I don't know what the genesis of these lies are, but for example, one that's going around is that Trump is so far ahead in North Carolina that Kamala Harris has completely pulled out of the state. She's not even campaigning in North Carolina anymore. Same with Nevada. She's pulled out. She's not campaigning there. It's ridiculous. I don't know where they get this garbage. So that's been going around now. But here's an article. CNN just came out yesterday. Neither Vice President Kamala Harris nor former President Donald Trump has established a clear advantage in the race for the White House in two key southern battleground states. Likely voters in Georgia divide 48% for Trump to 47% for Harris, and in North Carolina, Harris stands at 48% to Trump's 47%. The results in both states are within the margin of error. So here you have a statistical tied race, if you believe these polls, in North Carolina, in Georgia. Kamala Harris is not pulling out of either. Yet, Trump's cult, because of the lies that spread like wildfire in their right-wing ecosystem, they believe that Kamala Harris is losing so badly in North Carolina that she's completely given up the race in that state and has pulled down all her advertising, closed her field offices. It's just absurd. But this is what Trump obviously wants them to believe, because this is a group of people who are primed once again to believe that if Trump does not lose, and I don't believe that he will win this election, let me say that again. If Trump does not win, and I don't believe that he will, but if Trump does not win, that the election was stolen, that it was rigged, that we have to violently overturn the results if need be. That's what he wants them to believe. That's the mindset he wants them to be in. And to that extent, he appears to be successful, because that looks to be where these people are. They are primed and ready to accept only a landslide victory for Donald Trump. Anything else is a stolen and rigged election. And we know how dangerous that is. But truth is, this race is close, unfortunately. But not everyone on the right, and I want to leave you with this, because this kind of just made me smile. Not everyone on the MAGA right has completely drunk the Kool-Aid on this idea that Donald Trump is going to win in a landslide. I came across this article, Trump Bros Freaking Out, and this is about Mike Cernovich. If you guys are familiar with any of these online MAGA personalities, Mike Cernovich and Charlie Cook. Charlie Cook is this Turning Points USA guy. His group, Turning Point USA, is one of the groups that Donald Trump has farmed out his ground operations to. So Charlie Kirk and his group are supposed to be doing their on-the-ground get-out-the-vote efforts. And so his inclusion in this story is put a smile on my face. Two of former President Donald Trump's most prominent backers in the right-wing influencer sphere fretted Wednesday after early voting numbers showed massive early turnout among women that could imperil their candidate's path to victory. Quote, male turnout in Pennsylvania for Trump has been a disaster. Unless this changes, Kamala Harris takes Pennsylvania and it's over. Mike Cernovich tweeted that. And Charlie Kirk, the Turning Point USA guy who's doing Trump's ground operations, he wrote, early vote has been disproportionately female. If men stay at home, Kamala Harris is president. It's that simple. I don't find myself much in agreement with Charlie Kirk, but with that comment, I will find myself in agreement. He is right about that. If this trend continues, and it's not a foregone conclusion that it will, perhaps more men will show up in the next couple of days. Maybe men will be a disproportionate share of the vote on election day. We will just have to wait and see. But if this trend continues in anywhere near the numbers that we've seen thus far, with 55% of the early vote being cast by women and only 45% being cast by men, this is a very encouraging sign. And I believe that if women continue to vote in those numbers, that is not something that that's not an environment in which Donald Trump can win. He cannot win if 55% of the electorate turns out to be women. He will lose. Okay? I don't think there's really any question about that. And partisan breakdown, it doesn't matter. Independent, Republican, Democrat, that portion of it doesn't matter. If 55% of the electorate is women, it's game over for Trump. All right, that's going to do it for me. Like I said, Facebook, check out the description below. Please follow me over there on Facebook. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. One of my latest videos I will put up, it should be popping up right now in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. It's about Pennsylvania and why I think that state is going for Kamala Harris. So please check that out if you haven't done so already. Be well, and I'll talk to you again soon.